Hi, I'm Amy Romeo, and I can't wait to show you how to create these really fun travel-themed motel-inspired keychains using faux leather, heat transfer vinyl, and a Cricut. I'll have the SVG file for this project in my shop if you want to grab that and craft along with me. So if you're ready to learn how to make this project, let's get started. Let's go over the tools and materials we'll be using to make these motel-style faux leather keychains. I'll be using the Cricut Maker today, but you can use any of the current Cricut machines, including the Explore Air 2, to cut faux leather. It's a very common misconception that you have to use a Cricut Maker to cut faux leather. You absolutely don't, because we'll be cutting faux leather with the standard fine point blade that comes with the Maker machines, the Explore machines, and even the Cricut Joy and the Cricut Joy Xtra. So whatever Cricut you have, you'll be able to do this project. Now the faux leather that I'm using comes in sheets, and there's two different types that I'm working with. You can use any kind of really smooth faux leather that you'd like. This is a solid faux leather. It comes in really pretty pastel colors. This comes from my favorite faux leather supplier, and I'll have links to all of these materials for you. And then this one is a glossy glitter faux leather. I've already used some of it, but you can see that it has some glitter and sparkle. Again, it's really nice and smooth, and that's going to help our heat transfer vinyl stick to this project. Now I will be using some regular white heat transfer vinyl for the motel design on the front and the back of the keychains. You can use any heat transfer vinyl that you'd like. You could also use permanent vinyl for this project if you prefer. I'll be cutting the faux leather with the purple strong grip cutting mat, and then cutting the heat transfer vinyl with a green standard grip cutting mat. We'll use some blue painter's tape to help us get good cuts, and then to heat press the vinyl onto the faux leather, I'll be using the Cricut Easy Press Mini set on the low setting. You can also use a regular Easy Press set to about 265 degrees. I'll be using a cover sheet like a Teflon sheet, or you could use butcher paper or parchment paper to protect your surface while you're pressing. And I'm also using a Cricut pressing pad to protect my surface. To attach the hardware, we'll be using some 10mm jump rings and then a split ring key ring to turn this into a keychain. And I'm using a pack of assorted metal colors, which is really fun. There's a lot of different metals. There's some rose gold looking, some silver, bright gold, antique gold, and the keychains and those 10mm jump rings match. I'll have some craft scissors on hand to cut my faux leathers, some flat jewelry making pliers to help open up those jump rings to connect our keychains. You'll need a weeding tool of some kind, and then we'll need some glue to glue the two pieces of the faux leather for our keychains together, front and back. I like to use Beacon Fabri-Tac. This little bottle is fun because it has a very small little applicator tip, and we're able to get the glue in small areas. You could also use something like Bearly Art Glue or Aleene's Fabric Glue. Really, any good fabric glue will work. So let's hop into Cricut Design Space, and I'll show you how to upload these designs, and then we'll go ahead and cut them out and create our keychains. Starting with a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG file is for this project. Click on it to select it and then click Open. You'll see a preview of the project. Click on Upload, and then select the project from your recent uploads row, and then click Add to Canvas. So I'm going to zoom out here just a minute, and you can see that there are 6 different designs for the Motel Keychains, all with a travel and adventure theme. And what you're seeing is the front design for the keychain and then the back design. These darker color shapes are going to cut from faux leather, so there'll be a front and a back, and that's what we will glue together. The white layers are the layers we're going to cut from heat transfer vinyl and press them onto those faux leather layers in the back. So there's lots of different designs here for you to choose from. I'm only going to cut one of them for you today, but you will use the same process for any design that you choose. So the first thing we need to do is click on this little drop down so you can see all of the different layers. And to delete the ones that I don't want to cut today, I'm going to click on Ungroup. And that way I can manipulate the different shapes separately. So I'm just going to select the ones I'm not going to cut today and delete them off of the canvas. And the one I'm going to cut is the Adventure Awaits design. Now I did want to mention before I move off of this screen, if you did not want to use Adventure Awaits as your word, this is not editable text. I've created this as a SVG for you, and it's all connected as a layer to make it easy for you. However, if you wanted to change out the text, you can do that by hiding the Adventure Awaits part of this layer, and you can do that easily with the contour tool. So let's click on contour just so I can show you quickly how to do that. When you click on contour, then you'll start to see every single shape that's going to cut. And when you click on a shape, it starts to gray out. Can you see how now that's gray? And that means that that shape will no longer cut when you cut this out on your mat. So what we want to do is just go through and click on every single cut here for the letters. Make sure they're grayed out. Don't forget to get those little insides of the letters as well. So once all of your letters and all of the little inside shapes are grayed out, you can close out the contour menu here, and you'll see now you have a blank area on your Motel keychain that you can create your own text or add your own shape or image. So if you wanted to add your own text, you could click on the text tool and design your word. Make sure you size it either to fit this way on your keychain or to fit this way. You can also use the shapes tool and just choose a shape. Let's pick a heart. Let me drag that a little bit smaller. Now let's make this shape the same color as the rest of the vinyl layer. And then what you'll want to do is select all of your shapes, whether you're using text or a shape. You want to make sure that it's nice and centered. So if you click all of the shapes on each side of the keychain, you'll click on Align and then Center horizontally. And then once you have your keychain centered, what I like to do is click over here in the Layers panel. Click on your shape or your text, hold the Shift key, and then I'm clicking on the outline of the keychain, that other white vinyl part. And then what you want to do is attach those so that they will cut together on your mat. Let me show you now how those two things are connected. See? Okay, but let's go back because I do want to show you how to cut Adventure Awaits. Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and click the Make It button. We're cutting our materials on a mat. And faux leather and heat transfer vinyl cut in reverse. So it's very important that you mirror both of these mats before you cut them. And the vinyl mat, if you are cutting it from permanent vinyl, then you would not mirror this mat, but I'm using heat transfer vinyl, so I have mirror on for both mats. Now the first thing you want to do is drag your shapes apart just a little bit, away from the edges of your mat edges and away from each other. That's just going to help us when we're weeding and cutting out our shapes. Now we'll go ahead and click the Continue button. And the material setting I'm going to use is called Faux Leather Paper Thin. If you don't have it bookmarked as a favorite like I do, you can click on Browse All Materials and search for it. It's important to note if you're using the Explore Air 2, you'll need to turn your dial to Custom before you can browse for this setting and find it. I'm going to click on it to select it. And I always choose more pressure when cutting faux leather with my Cricut. You can see here that we are just using that regular fine point blade that comes with all of the current Cricut machines. The vinyl layer, I recommend using the material setting that's recommended for your particular vinyl type. I'm going to be using regular vinyl, so I will use the vinyl setting. You might also want to use washi sheet if your design is intricate and small. If you're using foil iron-on or glitter vinyl, those are great settings too. Okay, so we're all set to cut out our mats. Let's hop back over to my overhead camera and we'll get our mats cut out and then our keychain assembled. So I've gone ahead and trimmed my faux leather down to a size that's just slightly larger than those shapes that are going to cut. And you can see what size you should cut in your mat preview screen in Design Space. Just kind of add about 1/2 inch when looking at the mat preview, and then you'll get a nice shape. This is actually really important for getting good cuts because the smaller the piece of faux leather is, the less likely it is to shift on your mat. So we're going to place this pretty side down on our purple strong grip cutting mat. Press it down really well all over. If you have a brayer, you can roll over it as well. And then we're going to use some blue painter's tape to tape this down on all sides. This blue painter's tape won't leave a residue on your mat or on your material, and you can easily peel these up and reuse them quite a few times before you need to throw them away. So we already have our faux leather paper thin setting with more pressure set for the Cricut. We're going to go ahead and load our mat and then begin the cut. So our mat has cut one time. The faux leather paper thin setting is an automatic double cut, but we still want to check and make sure the cut went all the way through before we unload the mat, because we can always repeat the cut if it's necessary. So I'm going to use my sharp weeding tool and just lift up the edge of my faux leather. If it looks like the cut went all the way through, that's great. You can go ahead and unload the mat. Or if you need to rerun the cut, just press that cut button again and the cut will automatically repeat. You can do that as many times as needed when you're cutting faux leather with your Cricut. If you're using the Cricut Joy, the option to rerun the cut will be on your screen in Design Space. So this looks good. I'm going to go ahead and unload my mat and remove my shapes. If necessary, if you have any little fuzzies on the edges, you can use some sharp curved scissors or embroidery scissors to trim up those edges. So just set these aside. Then we'll go ahead and cut out our heat transfer vinyl mat. So I'm placing my heat transfer vinyl shiny side down on my green standard grip mat. And again, I'm using that vinyl cut setting. So I'll unload the mat and then I'll weed away the excess from this vinyl layer using my sharp weeding tool. So I've weeded out my vinyl layer completely, and I'm just going to use some craft scissors and trim these two halves apart. I have my Easy Press Mini set to that low setting. Again, if you're using a regular Easy Press, I would set it to 265 degrees. If you're using a traditional heat press, like a clamshell press down type, you'll want to experiment a little bit so you get good pressure on your vinyl without flattening your faux leather. So we're just going to put our faux leather shapes on our heat pressing pad. We'll line up our layers. Use that hole for the key ring as a guide. You should have a little small area of faux leather that's visible around the edge, that white border. And then we're just going to cover with a piece of cover sheet somehow. No. Then we're just going to cover with something like Teflon sheet or butcher paper or parchment paper, and then press all over. You want about 10 seconds of coverage all over your keychain. Now that I've pressed for about 10 seconds on all the areas of the faux leather, I'm actually just going to set this aside and let this cool just a bit before I try and remove my vinyl, and I'll go ahead and press the other side. There we go. Now I'll set this one aside, and we'll very carefully start to peel away that cover sheet. Try and keep the faux leather flat on your work surface. I'm doing that by holding my finger down and then just very carefully peel away. If when you're peeling, your letters start to peel up, just press your vinyl cover sheet right back down and press for, I would say, another 5 to 10 seconds. But this looks good. And because this is still warm, I'm going to place it underneath my heat pressing pad so that it cools nice and flat. We'll repeat with this side. So I'm going to let this cool flat also for just a moment while I get our glue ready, and then I'll show you how to glue our keychains together and attach the keychain hardware. So I'm back and I'm ready to glue the two halves of my keychain together. So again, I'm using that Beacon Fabri-Tac. You can use any good fabric glue. If you do use Bearly Art Glue, keep in mind that it is a lot thinner and you'll need to use more of it to be able to get the coverage all along the back of these keychain parts. I find that the Fabri-Tac works really well. If you try to use something like E6000, I find that it's a little thick and clumpy, and you really want your keychains to be nice and flat after they're glued together. So all I'm going to do is flip over one of my keychain parts, Maybe I'll hold it up so you can see it a little better. Then I'm just going to use my Fabri-Tac and I'm going to glue all over the back, and you want to glue close to the edge but not all the way to the edge, because that glue will naturally seep to the edges when we press, and it should be just the right amount of glue to seal those edges nicely without the glue spilling out. So that might be a little hard to see, but I'm very close to the edge but not all the way. You only need to glue one side, and we're just going to take our other side, place it on top. Your edges will line up perfectly on the outside. You'll just want to line up that inside hole. Press down with your fingers. If any glue comes out, don't worry about it. Just use a damp paper towel to wipe it up. Now the edges of the faux leather might be a color like white, and if you don't like that color, if it's obvious or distracting, you can use a color coordinated Sharpie and color your edges. I would do that after your faux leather dries. So this looks pretty good. And now this is the secret to getting a really nice seam on the edge and a nice flat keychain, is to place your glued keychain underneath something heavy like a book for a few hours. So we'll go ahead and do that. So our keychain is going to dry for at least an hour, but I did want to show you quickly with an earlier one that I made how nice and tight the seal on the edge of your faux leather will get when you let your keychain dry underneath something heavy like a book. It also makes your keychain nice and thick and sturdy, which is also great. So the keychain hardware is really easy. It's just a 10mm jump ring. I'm using a rose gold color, which is really pretty, and then a split ring key ring. So all you'll need to do is open up that jump ring with your flat nose pliers, and then attach the jump ring onto your key ring. Slide on your key ring, and then use your pliers to close up the jump ring again. And that's it. Here's another look at all 6 designs I created for this project, all of the adventure and travel themes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.